Voice of the Cage.
We have reached the main event of the evening.
This is Voice of the Cage Radio with Patrick Stanger. Fighters, trainers, promoters, events, rumors. If it has to do with MMA, we're talking about it.
Hey, this is Chuck Liddell. You're listening to Voice of the Cage, Patrick Stanger.
I have Roger Huerta on the line. I have Paul Erickson from TX MMA in the studio. And, of course, I've got Oscar Enriquez from the UWF in the studio. We're going to talk about actually the UFC card. We're going to talk about Velasquez versus Santos. We're going to break down that fight. But first, we're going to talk to Roger Huerta. We're going to talk about the UWF fight. As a lot of you may or may not know, Roger's going to be fighting War Machine here coming up November 26th in Far, Texas.
That's right.
And Oscar, you actually organized this fight. You live down in that area. Tell me a little bit about how you got this thing started.
Well, one is Roger's spent some time and lived there for a while in his youth and in Far, Texas. And I just asked him, and he decided to come out and be his first fight back since his layoff.
And, of course, we got to introduce Roger Huerta on the phone right now, calling from Minneapolis, right, Roger?
Correct.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing great. Training's been going good. Yeah, man, I've just been hammering away. You know, when you take a while off and then you get back in the swing of things, you feel all that soreness again.
I bet. It's been a while since we've seen you. You've been hanging out in Thailand. You're opening a gym there with Mike Swick.
That's correct.
We haven't seen Roger since he fought, I guess it was October.
Right.
In Bellator.
That's right.
And, that was the first fight that you actually, you got beat up.
Yep, the first time ever in my life, actually, I've ever felt something like that. And, where I was, defending myself kind of thing. And it's a big awakening. It's a big rain check on how, things are going in my life and seeing what I needed to really, really, change and take in perspective. And, I think I've made those changes.
So, Roger, this is Paul. So over, let's say the last 2 years, including your Bellator experience, I mean, what have you taken away, or how do you think, Roger Huerta, 2011 and 2012 is going to change compared to, let's say, the Roger of, 3 years ago?
The Roger of 3 years ago was just so passionate about fighting then. Everything about my life, everything that I was doing at that time I was just so devoted into the sport, into the UFC company, and just wanting to compete and wanting to be the best in the world, being part of. I wanted to be the best, and somewhere around that time, after I fought Clay, it wasn't that anymore. I just didn't know. I hit a point like, what is after fighting? I felt like I had, because in that fight I exerted. I showed what I was kind of holding inside for such a long time, and then at that point, fighting was kind of I'm not going to say pointless, but almost like, okay, what is there after this kind of thing? And I just started questioning a lot of things, not just about fighting. I mean, anything and everything in life, and questioning mannerisms and people, and what's the point of living? And it was just nuts. Really, there was a lot of stuff that was going on.
Right, and so now you find yourself getting back, engaged in fighting, and what's it like now to kind of get in and start fighting at a local level? I mean, you don't have the pressure of dealing with national hype and things. I mean, there's still obviously people know who Roger Huerta is, but you have the ability to kind of recreate yourself. You're not having to deal with all this the publicity you have from a huge show, and you have the ability to fight near your hometown. And what does that feel like?
It feels awesome. It's kind of like a big full circle for me, really, because when I was young, and the last time that when my dad actually had taken me to Mexico, then the last time I set back footsteps in U.S. soil was in Far, Texas. I was in fourth grade, somewhere around there, and then I stayed in Far, Texas for 6 years, but a lot of crazy things happened around that time. But yeah, what you're saying is, yeah, so it's just a whole full circle for me, where like everything's like a new start for me now. I'm just starting fresh, starting new. This is, if I'm getting back into this, I'm doing a weight class that I haven't done in a long time, and then just going from there. Not taking, you know, another thing that in Thailand, what I've learned also, like a lot of these, you know, great Thai fighters have like over 300 fights, but
right.
their records are like 240 something and, you know, 50.
Right.
Right. And they don't take like a loss into hardships and like, oh my God, like it's the end of the world type of thing. And you know, us Americans here, or the Western views, is like, oh, you lose to a guy you lost a few times, and that's it. Like you're kind of just, you know, looked as not as good anymore or something. But that's not the case, you know.
Right.
You know, again, basically, I'm taking fighting away from my personal life now. It's not as personal.
Right.
What I'm getting at. If I'm going to use it as, you know, it's my job. I'm competing against another athlete, and that's it.
Great. Well, I've got one more question before I bounce it back to Patrick here. But so now that you're kind of things have come full circle, you know, like you've been able to look at, you know, what's gone well and gone, you know, and maybe not so well the past few years, and now you're in a different weight class. Like, you know, how do you think you've changed or will change as a fighter? What will we see, you know, without giving away your fight strategy or anything?
You know what? One of the things, and I mean, I'll say this, I'm going to criticize myself on it, that when I fought Eddie, I was very flat-footed. You know, the guy had great footwork. He would come in with his combinations, and he was out. He was gone. He would come in strong, and then he was out. He would come in, and he was out. And the reason why he was able to do that was because, you know, I was flat-footed. I just wanted to stand in there and bang with the guy, and, you know, the game's changed. The game's changed, and I need to evolve with it. And, you know what? A lot of the things that I've been working on now is footwork, and basically getting in and out as well. You know, hopefully that, it plays a big factor in my game.
And Roger, it looks like, you know, I've been following the YouTube blogs. I guess Mike Swick and you you guys have been hanging out over there, and I saw something going on. You guys were doing some kind of water balloon fight or water gun fight.
Oh yeah, Songkran is actually it's Thailand's New Year's, and it's kind of I want to say that it's like, I guess, washing your sins away. But I don't know all about that. But it's Songkran, Thailand's New Year's, and it's just a big water fight all over Thailand.
It actually looks like a lot of fun. Was that Mike Swick's page that has that, Quick Swick?
Yeah, you go to I think you can check it out on Mike Swick's YouTube's page, and he's got all of that down there.
Yeah, there's that, and then there's you drinking some cobra blood, and I mean, you've really been living it up, and I guess finding yourself in a sense. But you know, you look like you're having a good time, you know, and you kind of stepped out of the spotlight. And just from my perspective of following you over the past year, it just looks like you needed that.
I did. The thing about me, man, and I mean, and I'm not gonna just like single myself out. I mean, a lot of people go through a lot of things, a lot of hard times, and work hard their lives. But I've literally been, I don't want to cuss on the radio, effing working my entire life since like when I was young until this point. And there's never really been like a big break, you know. Even when there was a break, it's like, man, I was criticized the whole time I was in the UFC. I wasn't the best fighter, and I was getting special treatments or whatever. And that was never the case. If anything, I was worked like a dog. Like I was doing so much PR work for those guys. It was crazy. And what ended up happening now, I think it needed to happen, and I think it was a blessing in disguise where I've had the time off. I was able to travel. I've seen the world. I've encountered amazing people from all over, and you know what? I'm enjoying life.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to watching your fight. It's happening November 26th in Far, Texas, and of course, if you can't make it down to Far, Texas, you can order it on pay-per-view. And of course, Oscar is still in the studio with us. Obviously, he's going to tell us a little bit about how we can get tickets, obviously, if you want to go to the fight, or if
how do we order? Like, where do we go on the internet?
GoFightLive.tv. Where can you see this caliber of fight for $10? Usually, it's a lot more, but I tell you what, I think bringing it down to that price level, I wanted everybody to get a chance to really see it and get online, and you could see it on your iPad, your iPhone, any electronic device, and I think that's what I love about it. And it's all over the world, just not here.
Let's get to it real fast. This big UFC fight happening on Fox, November 12th, Cain Velasquez versus Junior Dos Santos.
That's a good fight.
Man, this is going to be the first big fight on network TV. UFC making their debut. You know, Dana's been holding out for this deal for quite some time. He's been holding out on network TV, finally got the deal he wanted. And now we're going to see this. They're going to put this one main event on Fox. And the rest of the fights are going to be on Facebook.
Yeah, well, I guess they're streaming it on Facebook and also through, I don't forget if it's the UFC website, but there are basically 2 internet venues by which you can watch the undercard, one of which is Facebook. And I think they had said something to the effect of, well, you know, this is sort of like a first go with Fox. They're not going to do a full card, but they are going to put this one, you know, real big headline fight and see how it goes. And then in 2012, you'll see an expansion of the UFC on Fox concept where you'll maybe see like a full, like, you know, 4-fight main card or 3-fight main card on Fox. And I guess before you and I get into making predictions, Patrick, we talk about this stuff all the time. So maybe we should hit up these guys, our guests, you know, Oscar and Roger, for their picks and what they think is going to happen.
I like Cain. He came down too far a few months back. Great guy, De La Santos. I saw him on Ultimate Fighter. I mean, I think it's going to be a tough fight, but I think Cain's going to take it.
How do you think he's going to win?
I think he's going to knock him out. I think he's going to knock him out probably toward the end of the second round.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Interesting. And because they're both they seem very competent strikers. I mean, you could argue that it seems to me, although maybe it's deceptive in terms of Cain's style, it seems to me like Dos Santos may be a bit heavier handed than Cain is in terms of how he throws. But I'm not going to pick just yet. Let's ask Roger what he thinks is going to happen.
What do you think, Roger?
Oh man, that's a hard one. I think Cain's going to win, and the reasons why. I mean, it's going to be a great fight. I don't think it's going to be by a knockout, but it could be by a TKO. I think that Cain's got too much stamina. He's too quick as a heavyweight, and I think he's a better wrestler than Dos Santos, and I think he's going to be able to take him down and ground and pound him and just wear and tear on him. And I think that itself is going to drain Dos Santos. If you saw when Dos Santos fought. Big country. I mean, he was getting exhausted, even though he, laid a lot of leather on the guy. He couldn't really, do much. And then, I don't know. I think Cain. I go for Cain.
Patrick?
Yeah, I like Junior Dos Santos' stand-up better than I like Cain Velasquez's stand-up. However, this is mixed martial arts.
Right.
This is not just boxing. I mean, Cain Velasquez, obviously, wrestler at Arizona State. Was he All-American?
I forget.
Either way, excellent wrestler, right? Cardio, just like Roger was saying, his cardio is outstanding, So, I mean, I don't know if I'd want to stand with Dos Santos. I think, if I were Cain, I'd have to take him down and just try to hold him and ground and pound, and I'm going to have to go with Cain Velasquez by strikes in the third round.
I think between these two guys, if I were to just throw some thoughts out there, I think it all seems to me like Junior, like striking wise, is throws with more power than Cain. I think Cain he might be slightly crisper, sharper, with his combinations and accuracy than Dos Santos is. But that's kind of just personal opinion. They're both very, very good at their stand up, and I agree with some of the other thoughts that we just put out there, where we've seen Dos Santos' conditioning where you might think might be suspect for, not just in 3 rounds, but 5 rounds. We don't know if this guy can actually go 25 minutes. I hate it because I want to see a finish of the fight, but I'm actually going to pick him by decision. I'm going to pick Cain. I have a hard time picking Dos Santos in this one, although it'd be awesome to see a highlight reel knockout, but I think Cain is going to do most of the controlling. He'll be the ring general in this fight.
Absolutely, and we're running out of time, but I want to thank, of course, Oscar Enriquez and Roger Huerta for joining us today, and, of course, Paul Erickson from TXMMA.com. Roger, how can we follow you on Twitter? What's your Twitter?
Just Roger Huerta.
Thanks for listening to Voice of the Cage Radio. Email questions, inquiries, and other business to info@voiceofthecage.com. Facebook search Voice of the Cage and like to get the latest Voice of the Cage radio show. To book Patrick Stanger at your next fight promotion, visit voiceofthecage.com.